ever felt like you're supposed to be conquering the world right now, but the only thing you could seem to conquer is your couch? Sometimes the spirit is willing, but your flesh has a bigger desire to binge Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, all the things. No worries, you are not alone in the struggle. Today, I am sharing what to do when your energy dips. How do you keep pushing past that low level of energy? How do you sync your drive with your vibe and keep your goals on track even during your slow days? What's good, party people? It's your girl, Kandid, your personal hype woman on a mission to help you show up and speak up anyway, despite dealing with fear, uncertainty, or self-doubt. Now, first things first, cut yourself some slack. Everybody has their day. Sometimes doing nothing is the best something that you can do. On the other hand, what separates people who are not only successful but fulfilled is people who can keep showing up even when they don't feel like it. For me, during times when my energy is low but my ambitions are high, for me, the greatest chess move that I play during that time is going within. I believe that the answers that you seek will always be found in the present moment, and that you can tap into and create the energy that you need to begin again. I often look to about 3 areas. 1, am I well rested? Ambition often leads us to push our limits, but neglecting rest while we're pushing those limits can often drain your energy. So making sure that you're getting enough sleep, taking regular breaks, and engaging also in activities that help you recharge. And so for me, I love a good old happy hour with the girls. I love peaceful moments in my garden, playing with my nephew in the garden, or sometimes he's climbing trees and chasing ducks and turtles in the lake and all the things. And those simpler moments, even though they drive me crazy because he has energy like no other, those are moments where I can recharge and refuel. Oftentimes, what we have to recognize is rest is not only about laying down and getting sleep, taking your mind away from things, from your everyday hustle or grind, or whatever you like to call it. That's also considered rest. So even these moments where you're around people who are making you smile or laugh, taking your mind away from things, that is also rest. Another area that I look at for me is asking myself, Candia, where may you have broken a promise to yourself? Oftentimes, when my ambition is high and my energy is low, I've found that somewhere along the line said I would do something for me and I didn't do it. And that can be anything for me. That could be something related to business. If I said I was going to launch a program by a certain date and then I moved the date, or I said I was going to do a certain thing related to stepping outside of my comfort zone, especially, and I haven't did that thing. And then again, the next thing you know, I'm feeling bad about not doing that thing because I broke a commitment to myself. And that is when you feel the absolute worst. Your energy wavers off of broken promises to yourself. And going in therapy, one of the best lessons that I learned about myself, my therapist told me I have a huge measuring stick and an internal mean girl. That mean girl is mean to myself. And she has really, really high standards. And so I have to be very mindful that sometimes when my energy has wavered for certain things, it's because I have that mean girl. She's taken the front stage in my life. And that inner mean girl is telling me that I should be doing more. She's making me feel guilty that I'm not working hard enough in her eyes. And even sometimes I allow her to set unrealistic goals and expectations for myself. And that can mean anything. The unrealistic expectation around how much I could possibly get done, even if it means sacrificing sleep, eating, time with the people that I love. You really have to watch how you are speaking to yourself. This is why I am such a fan of journaling, because to me, when you're in your head, you can't sometimes see how some of the words are affecting your energy and the things that you're saying to yourself. However, when you get it down on paper, you can control it. And so ideally, the first step for you is to check in with yourself. Are you caring for your mental, physical, and spiritual health? Are you honoring your pause from the world? Oprah said it best. Sometimes you've got to distance yourself from the world so you can hear your voice loud and clear. The noise of the world now is social media. It's the news, which can be very draining, by the way. And next thing you know, subconsciously, you may be telling yourself that this vision that you have for yourself is so far out of reach because the world is going to hell. Okay? And sometimes the barrier really is mental. You have to take time to challenge your negative thoughts and replace them with self-empowering questions and affirmations that reinforce your capability. And another thing, for my ladies out there, we also have to look at our cycles. When it's that time of the month, you know, in Kandid Conversations, we likes to keep it real. When it's that time of the month, your hormones, or even if you're in perimenopause, listen, I am really working on inviting someone who can be an expert on perimenopause, menopause, cycles, and all the things. Because when I was younger, of course, you would be embarrassed by some of those things. And then as you got older, you kind of realize, okay, everybody gets their period and all the things. But we also underestimate, as women, how our hormones will do a number on us, not only physically, but mentally too. And so you have to recognize that sometimes, of course, you may have some mental barriers, but also physically, your body is changing in a way that can also drain your energy. The other place that I often look at is asking myself, Candia, are your standards too high or are they someone else's standards? When my therapist told me about this inner mean girl that I needed to be very aware of and that I needed to learn how to speak nicer to myself, the question that I have to ask myself, and I would encourage you to ask yourself too, is are you attaching your sense of self-worth to your level of productivity or your level of discipline? Sometimes we beat ourselves up so much for not reaching some self-imposed goal that could be rooted in comparison or some made-up competition that you done made for yourself. And the next thing you know, your energy wavers. And again, you've talked yourself out of the game. So maybe you wanted to work out for 60 minutes today, but you've only been able to get 20 minutes complete. So then you tell yourself a story that you're not good enough or you'll never be able to achieve these things. We have to really look at some of the standards we set for ourselves and realize that those standards are not sustainable. And it's really a recipe for unhappiness. And so sometimes when I set goals for myself, I have to pause and say to myself, Candia, girl, is this sustainable? Are you going to be able to really keep this up? A few months ago, I listened to a podcast interview with Ryan Holiday. He is the author behind several books, but the one book that resonated most with me was The Obstacle is the Way, and he also has The Daily Stoic. He was doing a podcast with Chris Williamson, and they were talking about the downside of having high standards. Ryan introduced a shift in perspective about discipline and how we measure ourselves. And the magic words for him are more often than not. Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing more often than not? Are you making the hard choices or the easy choice? He also says that if you try to hold yourself to this perfect or impossible standard, not only are you liable to sort of not do it and then feel terrible about it afterwards, but it can also come at the expense of other things that are equally important to you, like spending time with your loved ones or pursuing hobbies. So even for me, with learning how to swim as an adult, right, I'm learning how to swim, I also practice yoga and Pilates, but I had to realize that if I wanted to do this thing consistently over a long period of time, if I really want this to be an everyday practice of my life, I have to remove these high standards that I have for myself. I have a marathon coming up, and initially my goal was to run 5K in 35 minutes. And right now I'm at 45 minutes. But I said to myself, girl, what if we just focused on finishing the race? I wanted to be able to effortlessly swim 3 laps in the pool. So after my third lesson, I'm like, I should be swimming across the laps of the pool. And so when that didn't happen, I realized I would beat myself up and I would lose energy and focus when I wasn't meeting these self-imposed deadlines. And ultimately, I was taking joy out of the process. And so one question I repeatedly ask myself sometimes to get unstuck is, Candia, are you further than where you were last year this time? 9 times out of 10, the answer is absolutely yes. So this comes back to something that I'm truly passionate about when it comes to helping people achieve whatever their goals or whatever their vision of success is. You have to learn how to have better conversations with yourself. It also comes down to creating a new identity for yourself. So part of that conversation came down to, Candia, how do you want to describe yourself a year from now? And why is that important for you? Which brings me to my next point. Reevaluate your why by starting with the end in mind. And I believe if we follow Ryan Holiday's magic statement of more often than not. So for me, when I'm thinking about who do I want to be next year this time, I might say, more often than not, I want to become the person who meditates every day. I want to become the person who runs marathons. I want to become the person who knows how to do crow's pose in yoga. And why is this important to me? Because I want to stay out the doctor's office. I want to preserve, this body that I have right now. And at some point, I stopped visualizing that girl and I became her. And I started asking myself, you know what, Candia? What if we just took the deadline off? And I guess that's my next point. Reset your expectations and embrace flexibility. Sometimes we underestimate the time it takes to complete a task. So you have to set more realistic, achievable goals that match your current energy level. Some of you are parents, you're caretakers, you have a demanding job, and then you're trying to start a side hustle, or you're trying to commit more to your relationship. And we have to understand that sometimes it's okay to scale back to maintain your well-being. Be willing to take the deadline, the self-imposed deadline, off the table. Be willing to adapt your plans as needed. If your energy isn't matching up with your ambitions due to external factors, adjusting your timeline or approach might be absolutely necessary. Break them into smaller, more achievable tasks to progress and build that momentum for yourself, and focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do. So for me, what I realize is making the commitment to say I'm going to exercise every day for 60 minutes a day, that was not sustainable for me. But 15 to 20 minutes, that's sustainable. And I've been about that life. For meditation, it's been over 2 years now. Since November 2023, I have been committed to exercising at least 20 minutes a day for 4 to 5 days a week. That's more sustainable for me. Also, embrace delegate to elevate, particularly if you are a leader of the workplace. You have to learn how to delegate to elevate yourself and the people around you as well. And what that means is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. So some of the things that you have on your plate, whether it's cooking for your family or a specific task in the workplace, who can you delegate that task to? My next point is we have to give ourselves permission to change our minds. And that comes down to looking at your current goals and asking yourself, are these goals aligned with my values and my priorities or someone else's? If not, it may be time to pivot or make some adjustments. A lot of the reasons why we run out of energy is because we're running towards someone else's dream or someone else's vision. Take it from me. I spent a gazillion years climbing the corporate ladder of success only to realize my ladder was placed on the wrong buildings. It was placed on the building that my father or my mama had set or society had set. Other people's version of success will always be a moving target. And so you'll always get back to that place where your energy runs low. It's like you get to that point when you start asking yourself, who am I trying to prove these things to? Them or me? When you are always running towards someone else's vision of success, you will always be at the mercy of that person's validation. That stranger on the internet, your mama, your husband, you will always be at their mercy, trying to get their approval or their validation. And sooner or later, that person or group of people, they're going to want more from you. So screw them. Another thing we have to consider is adjusting your environment. Your surroundings can significantly impact your energy levels. And I've always said this, the reflection of your mind can often be seen in your physical space. If you have clutter all over your workspace or in your office, organizing your workspace and elements that inspire you, or even changing your environment entirely if possible, can spark new energy. So even for me, I have a separate office space in my home. And one of the things that I've had to realize is I have to, although I'm in a small office space, I have to divide it up, right? And so I have my little desk area, my filming area. I keep it very neat in here. I keep certain candles that I burn here to uplift my energy. Also, every evening when I shut down in the office, I lay out my yoga mat in front of my desk. So when I open this door to come into the office space, I have to hit the mat. And it's one way that I've adjusted or organized my environment so that it complements the energy that I want to bring into the world. And I know that, listen, y'all, most days I wake up, I do not want to do yoga. Okay, I sit there and talk to myself like, why am I doing this again? And then I tell myself, okay, Kandid, we're just going to commit 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, and that's another point that I would encourage you to embrace. Create 2, 10, or 20 minutes of momentum. Instead of waiting to feel that energy, set a daily timer to take 2 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes of action towards your goal. Often what I've realized, again, when I think back to yoga, even running right now because I'm preparing for the marathon. Friday or the Friday before last, y'all, I just wasn't here for it, okay? I did not feel like hitting the concrete. But I said to myself, Kandid, you know what? Okay, you're not going to run today, but you are going to walk for at least 20 minutes. And you know what happened? I built that momentum up for myself, and next thing you know, I completed my 3 miles. Now, I didn't complete my 3 miles in the time that I would normally complete it because my energy wasn't there, but I completed it. That action can create the motivation or the energy that you seek. And so sometimes when you think about the fact that our ambition is not in alignment with our energy, we have to recognize that we can create that energy, but we have to take action. Something else that I've learned, y'all, I'm introverted as they come, okay? It may not seem like it on this podcast, but I am introverted. At the same time, I realize that my confidence to pursue a lot of things that are stretching me outside of my comfort zone physically and spiritually and mentally comes from a community, comes from support from my friends, my accountability group that I meet with on Fridays. They also offer some support for me when I'm beating myself up or when I'm thinking things are impossible. So when you are a part of a community, they can also hold you accountable. They can provide you with a different perspective. They can help you detect your blind spots and your limiting beliefs and provide you with a solution that you hadn't considered. And that's so very important no matter what stage of life that you're in right now. I would also say, stop waiting to celebrate that physical thing you want to see appear in your life or that tangible thing that you're waiting for in your life. Sometimes we lose steam or energy for the thing that we desire because we haven't achieved it yet. And maybe we told ourselves that something would take 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, and then it doesn't happen. And that's because a lot of the times we cannot control outcomes. We can only control our effort in the present moment. And this is why it's so very important to celebrate your effort, because you cannot control that outcome. Let's say this goal that you have that you're losing steam or desire for, what if that took you 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years? Now what? Even for me, when I think about yoga, one of my goals, my yoga goals, shout out to Dr. Nyla, who's also my yoga instructor. I'm hoping she's not listening to hold me accountable to this. But anywho, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. Okay, so my goal is to master the crow pose. Now, if you don't know what that is, let me paint you a picture. So imagine you are squatting down and your hands are planted firmly on the ground in front of you. You lift your hips, and then you're going to place your knees snugly on your upper arms. And then, as if by magic, you shift your weight forward and you start to lift your feet off the ground. And so ultimately, you're balancing on your hands, knees tucked in, and you're flying just like a crow. Now listen, if that sounds wild, it is. I'm gonna send you to the Google streets, okay? Google schmoogle it. It's like doing a handstand, but with a twist. It's powerful. And to me, it's just kind of like, it just makes me feel like if I get there, y'all not gonna be able to tell me nothing. But here's the kicker. I'm not waiting until I can do a perfect crow pose to celebrate. For swimming, it's the same deal. Of course, I'd love to be able to swim laps effortlessly, gliding through the water like a mermaid or a dolphin on a mission. However, I'm not there yet. But I'm also not waiting to do those things to celebrate. I'm taking time to acknowledge and celebrate my progress along the way. Each time I lift one foot off the ground in a crow pose, every time I swim a little bit further than I did last year, your girl is celebrating. Where is the happy hour? What time it starts? Because it's just not about reaching or achieving the goal. It's about honoring every step of the journey. So, party people, I challenge you to do the same, okay? Celebrate your small victories, your daily progress, and watch how that energy propels you forward. Lastly, I want to leave you with this. Learn how to affirm yourself. So there's a quote, and I don't know who to attribute this quote to, but this is a powerful quote that I reference often as well. Every breath is proof of my blessings and a reminder that it's never too late to change. As long as I am breathing, I have the power to get back up and try again. Thank you so much, party people, for listening to this episode of Kandid Conversations. If this episode has resonated with you in any way, share it with your people so they can share it with their people. I appreciate y'all. Talk soon.